Running a little late. Normally what I'm doing right now is a live stream with Mario games, but we're doing something different right here. I feel like that was like a 1-up or something like that that we failed to get there. Here's the exit here. What the heck is happening? More of them are appearing? They're like bombers, ghosts, or whatever? Wow. Oh, he eats the bombs. Look at that. So you've got to be tactful and have them blow up before he gets to them. Interesting. This is very dangerous. Ugh, so annoying. Very annoying there. Like, kick the bomb, bro. Oh, we got most of them there. Where do those guys keep coming from? What was happening there? Oh, there's a clock. If you take too long, the timer is against you. I was not aware of that. So you should take advantage of the invincibility frames too. Okay. Dang it. Because that was smart. Equally smart. Oh, this reverse Pac-Man guy here. Just super annoying. Like, why wouldn't you kick the bomb there? That blast radius is so powerful. The timer is making me sick here. And I can't kick the freaking bombs. And then you decide to go another way. Ah, the madness, man. It shouldn't be this tough. This early. Alright, we're gonna trap you like right oh. Here's that clock again. Am I, like, trapped in here now? Oh my gosh. Jeez Louise, just die already. Man, I'm just like stuck in some of these death loops. And then there's a ghost of that thing. You know what? I don't have the kick anymore because I died. Now it's starting to make sense. He's actually spawning these things. I see now. No. Rewind it to when it was just... right here is where we needed to be at. He keeps making more. How am I going to get rid of these things? See, there was a period where there was nobody else on the screen. We got him here. I hate how that blast radius is not... Look at that! So freaking annoying! I don't remember the first Bomberman being this annoying. How are these other guys just coming back? Maybe I'm thinking about this wrong. I need to really get rid of these guys first. Because they keep coming back and it's like, stop coming back. Alright, let's save that here. I've lost too many lives already messing with this. Finally! That was stressful. I just didn't realize what I needed to do there. I don't see an instruction manual or anything either telling me, like, hey, how this is supposed to work. There's this kid in elementary school that had this game. Ivan. I can't remember Ivan's last name, but we used to tease him and call him Ivan the Terrible. Because, you know, who had the name Ivan way back then? And, you know, maybe some people still have that name. And I don't know if he was Russian or not. Maybe he was. He probably was. Probably had some Russian descent, because he used to always pick Zangief when we would play Street Fighter as well. But I believe Ivan is who knew Jenny. I won't say her last name. We'll just call her Jenny. That is her real name. But we won't say her last name. But the girl I first went out on a date with, I'll never forget that. He knew the girl, and it was like, why aren't you going out with her? But I guess he didn't like her or something like that. Anyway, Ivan had all these Bomberman games. He loved Bomberman. And Bomberman's well loved in Japan, but here in the US, maybe not so much. It just has a negative connotation. You think of like Unabombers and stuff like that. So back in the 90s, you're playing this, and it eventually is on like Sega Saturn. They had like a Saturn Bomberman, I remember that. Crap, I got trapped in there. Oh, we just got this last guy here. Wish I had the kick power up. Can I break that? Oh, you can just walk over those things. Okay, where's the frickin' exit, bro? It's in one of these things. I don't, or maybe not. I don't like playing with these timers. An extra bomb. So these things can actually break. Only certain ones, though. Is it just the green stuff? It is just the green stuff. None of these have... Oh my gosh. None of these have the kick bomb or the roller skate or anything like that. We're just going to destroy all of these. It'd be nice if it gave me something for doing that. Gave me nothing. Alright, let's save this. You know, this one isn't as bad. At least those you can like walk on them or whatever. At least it looks like you can walk on them. Problem is, it's got these annoying guys here. I hate that I got clipped there. At least the ending was found here. These guys take multiple hits, obviously. Extra life, I'll take it. Because they're killing me with the timer. Since they can't kill me from anything else here. Okay, we got him. If you would have just moved... How am I not making it through there? How is that blast not doing anything? Here we go with this stupid timer again. Those guys are the most annoying. The ones that just make those bombs and they keep respawning. These tanks aren't as bad. I mean, they're bad, don't get me wrong. Tank made another tank. How are they creating more? Like, where did that guy come from? They're just coming from the exit, I think. Like, if you don't destroy them within a certain amount of time, they just keep spawning. That's what I think is happening. Come on. You know better than that. Oh. Oh, man. How do we go from, like, 3 to, like, 2 right there? I just don't understand it. Oh my god, I can just throw this controller. I'm somewhere to the right of the yellow, to be honest with you. How did I do that? If I put a bomb there, does that make more of them come by? Is that what's happening? That must be what's happening. It's like, how are they just making so many more? Okay, we're in a good position now where... Let's save that right here. How are you not dead from that? Oh, so annoying. It's like they explode faster when it's me trying to do what I need to do. But not when I'm trying to get these enemies. Teddy Belcher says, don't explode. Yeah. I'm trying my best. So here's some of these bosses here. Oh crap, he's got like a giant hammer or whatever. We're gonna, I know it's frowned upon, but we're gonna save here. Come on, get out of the corner. It's nice to see how much health he has. Is that his health? That little... those lines up there? No, those aren't... That's not his health at all. You just have to kind of figure it out. Okay. So it looks like we finished World 1. So let's end that right there. Let's go ahead and save it here. Like, comment, subscribe, share. If you're interested in more of this, let me know so I can play more of it. And I hope to see you in the next one. Other Yellow Hat Guy will return. Alright, we're back with some Bomberman. I'm going to try to play a little more of this. Now, I don't know what you can blow up and what you can't blow up on this. It looks like these little chest-looking things you can blow up. We just defeated a boss, and the boss was actually easy. This right here with all these colors is what's going to mess with me. I think what we discovered is if you put a bomb near the exit here, it's going to create more enemies. At least that's what it looked like. I will take this extra bomb here. have no idea what these things do. Not sure what that does, but I'll take it. Not as bad as that first level. You know what? Let's just go. I'm gonna take that and count that as a win. I hate those bombs right there. Not only do they have a larger blast radius than me, but they're always like in my way. I would like whatever that is. Crap. Well, at least we saw where the exit is. So if we could do that, that worked out. Oh, man. Son of a gun, just blow up already. And then he just came over there to touch me. Move! Here comes that stupid timer. Oh, it was gonna kill me anyway. You might as well if you're gonna die. Do that. All right, there we go. Forgot I was invincible here for a little bit. Stupid jumpy things. Wow. Alright, so let's pause real quick. Alright. Alright, so we were back. We were trying to get these guys out of the way, but every time we throw something there they go, messing things up. So let's put a bomb here. Oh, it's like a timed bomb or something. Oh, that's neat. They go off when you want them to go off. Do we have like a timer for that? That is pretty cool that I could do that. You just press the B button. How many of these can I put down? You can put multiple ones of these things down. Trick is to remember that that bomb is right there in front of you and that you don't blow yourself up. Ah, you rascal. Oh, at least he went that way. Now we just wait for him to hop his happy self back over there. Got him. So now we just need to find the exit. No idea where the exit would be. That is so lame that it did that to me. And now we're back at the regular bombs, all because I didn't make it. And then one life left, which is annoying. Javi says not going to make it tonight. Alright, let's rewind all the way back there. So right here. That time bomb was probably the coolest thing. That was dumb on my part. Should have just let him go like right here and then cut him off. What are those square things? I have no idea what those square things are. those things like appear and then disappear. And you've got to get them while they're... Okay, I see. The eyes are like right there. Oh, man. Okay, and then we get whatever this little bulletproof, bomb-proof vest is. Doesn't really help us right here. What are these annoying coin things? Do those hurt me? Oh, that totally killed me. I should not have put that bomb there. Ugh, this is difficult. You get cut off by the coin. Holy crap, how are you supposed to do this? Those coins are everywhere. And not like the good kind of coins. There's the exit. Oh, come on, get out of the way. Wow, that's a huge blast radius. Oh my gosh. Stupid coin is just following me. Oh my goodness. Did we get them all? I think we got them all. I think we did get them all. Oh, I did the same stupid thing again. We just need to get out of here. Oh, what a dreadful situation that was right there. Okay, 2-6. Okay, we finally got the kick bomb back. We need to save this right here. You can kind of just put the bomb down and bump it. That's kind of neat. Got him. Hey, man. Ah, how did you walk into that one? I like that kick sound effect. Okay, we did that. Whew. Save this one too. That was interesting. Oh, that was not interesting. Okay, we got one out of the way. Oh, come on. I had no idea the blast radius would be that. How are we not able to walk through some of this? Might have to just keep kicking this thing here. Okay, I'll take that. I hate that I can't get down here to get that. There we go. Oh my gosh. There we go. Now we just got this annoying jerk in the middle here. Oh, that was a dumb move on my part. Can't kick the bombs anymore. Okay, we got through that. 2-8. Is this like a boss? It should be. And it's a weird clown face. Power of the Super Nintendo right here. I wonder if those tears of a clown right here. So the little sparks do harm you. If you would have kept running, you would have still been alive. How are you not dead yet? He's got his mouth open like that. It's like... Could you imagine just getting the game over here? Just because one of these little sparkles hit you? How frustrating that is? Like, how is that guy still even alive? Oh, so frustrating. At least we got him this time. And they want me to do 8 of these? No break, just go straight into 3-1. This music is kind of cool, though. I wanted just to appreciate that music, though. But I think we're done. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Did I not save? Let me make sure I saved it here. And I'm going to see you guys in the next one. Other Yellow Hat Guy will return.